From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
A startling revelation in court temporarily halted the sentencing of Zach Norman in Bozeman. Just ahead, we'll tell you about the sentence for the Three Forks man found guilty of killing one of two Butte brothers he shot after a dispute at a party.
Millions of Americans are in the grips of an early summer heat wave now heading northeast. I'm Naomi Ruckham in New York with which areas will see dangerous triple-digit temperatures and who is most at risk.
I'm Megan Thompson here at a child care facility in Phillipsburg. And coming right up, I speak with the executive director about the challenges of operating a child care facility in rural Montana.
Alrighty, it is 6 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Jane McDonald and Matt Elwell with you. Well, Matt, I have some family down south, and they're telling me about some of the heat warnings that they're getting down there. And well, when I sent them my snowy picture yesterday, they were flabbergasted.
What I refer to as chubby rain there yesterday afternoon, and some areas picking up several inches of snow yesterday afternoon. Luckily, a lot of that slowed down. You're probably pretty safe last night if your plants were outside. Tomorrow morning, you may want to think about covering them up and bringing in some of those perennials.
Tomato plants, pepper plants, maybe.
Stuff like that. Temperatures this morning, 30s and 40s overall, 32 in West Yellowstone, a little chilly there. There are still a few isolated light showers. We expect to see a few hit and miss showers, including some snow in some of the mountain ranges. I looked at the MDT report, mainly talking wet roadways, but there could be some icy spots, so just pay attention as you're starting out this morning. Watch the passes. Overall, there have been no problems. Temperatures holding into the 40s and 50s for the day today. A few drips and drops along the way. We're going to talk more about how much rain we picked up. That beneficial rain total coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. 100 years. That's the sentence handed down to Zach Norman. Norman was convicted of the deliberate homicide of Chase Estabrook after shooting and killing him and his brother Brendan after an altercation in Three Forks in January of 2022. A jury did not find Norman guilty of the murder in Brendan's death. Yesterday's sentencing hearing had to be halted for a time because of threats made against Norman. Our Jolie Salee was in the courtroom and has a report.
I'm here at the Law and Justice Center in Bozeman where emotions ran high as family members took the stand to share their statements and look their son's killer, 25-year-old Zachary Norman, in the eye.
And my last statement to you, notorious Norman, is if you ever leave prison in anything but a casket, I hope and pray you have the fear of constantly looking over your shoulder.
Brothers Brendan and Chase Estabrook were gunned down in the street off 6th and Ash in Three Forks in the early morning hours of January 15, 2022. The gunman, 25-year-old Zach Norman, faced a trial in July of 2023 that resulted in a partial verdict. In April of 2024, District Judge John Brown found Norman guilty of one of the homicide charges. Fast forward to the sentencing hearing Monday night, family of the brothers went before the courtroom to address their son's killer. That's when things took an unexpected turn.
Happy belated Father's Day to all your fathers. I truly am.
The brothers' father, Roger Estabrook, shared his intent to kill Zach Norman before a sudden change of heart. Roger snuck a makeshift shank into this courtroom during Norman's trial, he says, hiding it somewhere, planning to kill Norman out of revenge. Law enforcement escorted Roger out and eventually made everyone leave to search the room. Law enforcement won't say whether or not they found the shank. When we came back, Mr. Norman took the stand where he shared his sympathy for the family and children of the brothers.
It's been an emotional 2 years. 2 years filled with pain and anger and hate, and I think all those emotions are warranted and well understood.
Norman was sentenced to 110 years in the Montana State Prison. He will be eligible for parole in 25 years. In Bozeman, Jolie Salee, MTN News.
And the woman charged in the death of a Manhattan teen is now facing sexual assault charges. 20-year-old Lily LaRoque was seen in Gallatin County Justice Court Monday morning, facing 2 charges of sexual assault. According to charging documents, on Saturday, a deputy with Gallatin County Sheriff's Office investigated a report of a sexual assault between multiple inmates at the Gallatin County Detention Center. During the investigation, an inmate reportedly told the deputy that LaRoque struck and touched her in inappropriate places. Another inmate reported that LaRoque struck her inappropriately multiple times. LaRoque pleaded not guilty. LaRoque has also pleaded not guilty to vehicular homicide while under the influence in connection to a fatal head-on crash in August of 2023. Prosecutors allege that LaRoque was likely texting while driving and under the influence of marijuana and the drug lorazepam when she crashed head-on into Delaney Doherty's vehicle, killing the Manhattan High School softball player. LaRoque's vehicular homicide trial is set for December. And summer officially starts in just 2 days, but already tens of millions of Americans are facing extreme heat advisories, with temperatures expected to hover over 90 degrees all week. More than 22 million Americans are likely to see triple digits. And CBS News' Naomi Ruckham is in New York with a look at how some cities are coping with those record temps.
The dog days of summer are already here as a massive heat wave blankets parts of the country this week.
I looked at the forecast and I saw, all right, it's going to be toasty.
In Chicago, kids and parents beat the heat at the splash pad.
Find something you can do outside that keeps them cool but lets them have fun.
With record temps well above 90 in the Windy City this week, officials are checking in on its unhoused population and giving them information on where they can go to cool off.
We bring water around. If they're not willing to go to the shelter, then we take them to cooling centers.
Further north in Detroit, people sunbathing on the beach were split over the scorching temps.
It is almost unbearable. I'm enjoying it. I like the heat.
Still, health experts warn that the heat can be dangerous, especially for vulnerable populations, such as the elderly, the unhoused, pregnant people, and children. Schools in central Massachusetts abruptly ended the school year early because of the temps, while Boston is taking it day by day.
There are about 10 schools that don't have air conditioning in the building.
In parts of New York, some schools have moved to half days.
It's not fair to the kids or staff to be in there when it's this hot.
With hurricane season also underway, parts of Texas are now preparing for a potential tropical storm system this week. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
And the Center for Biological Diversity and other groups have sent a petition to FEMA asking the federal agency to include extreme heat and wildfire smoke as major disasters. For now, FEMA is urging Americans to check in on neighbors who may not have air conditioners, to go somewhere cool if they don't have air conditioners, and to stay hydrated by drinking plenty of water. Now back in some Treasure State headlines, you probably already know that daycare is expensive and hard to find. Now, the other side of that coin is that daycare providers struggle to find and retain teachers. Our Megan Thompson discovered a unique approach to solving both problems at a rural daycare in Phillipsburg.
Well, in general, running a childcare facility is pretty difficult right now, but if you're in rural Montana, that difficulty is even greater.
We know that from 0 to 5 are just the most crucial years for beginning those, all of those brain synapses that are forming. We want them to be kindergarten ready. We want them to be ready for school because that's going to create the foundation for them to be healthy learners throughout their life. You want to give me a hug?
Mary Hager is the executive director of Flint Creek Childcare, Granite County's first licensed daycare provider. The Phillipsburg nonprofit opened in 2019 with Mary as the sole employee. Since then, they've brought on 7 teachers and added an additional facility in Drummond. Mary says keeping costs low for families and retaining quality teachers are the big challenges she faces.
We want to keep costs for our tuition low and affordable, and we want to remain accessible to all. So that is a challenge.
Mary says her child care facility is able to keep costs down with the help of Butte 4C's STARS program. Kim Polich is the consultant with that program that offers daycare providers the support they need to train teachers and ensure quality education.
They may not have access to all the same resources that providers in more urban areas do, so they're just providing such a critical service for their community that they serve. So we just want to make sure that they're supported and can keep going.
Phillipsburg is great about helping itself, but we still need to look for that help from other areas, and so the Butte Four Cs plays a big part of that. If we didn't have them, it would be a significant loss for our region.
In Phillipsburg, Megan Thompson, MTN News.
Thank you very much, Megan. Now a question for you. What would you pay for a private cabin in one of the nation's most beautiful national parks? A very unique real estate opportunity has become available in Glacier National Park. And MTN's Kiana Wilson will tell us why this home is such a rare opportunity.
The dream of owning a home in Glacier National Park is now a possibility as one of the private parcels on Lake McDonald is for sale. There are over 100 private properties in Glacier National Park called inholdings, which is private land homesteaded before its creation. Property does come up for sale within the park on occasion, but this one is one of a kind as it sits right on Lake McDonald. The property consists of 3 separate parcels that combined are 1.55 acres. It includes over 100 feet of Lake McDonald shoreline with private access right off the porch. Currently on the property is a rustic 2-bedroom cabin. The cabin can be left as is, or there is the possibility to build something new. But what you're really getting at this property are the $1 million views. $15 million to be exact. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have Glacier National Park and Lake McDonald out your back door. You can visit kpax.com to find a link to the real estate listing. In Glacier National Park, Kiana Wilson, MTN News.
And today in Yellowstone National Park, the U.S. Department of Transportation will announce funding for a major park project. While full details will be released today, an animation by the Federal Department of Transportation clearly shows what the project includes. It's a major upgrade up the road north from Norris. The Golden Gate area just south of Mammoth Hot Springs is getting the most attention. As you see here, major new parking areas are included, as is a walking path around the scenic Rustic Falls. The new plan is very similar to the recently completed project at Gibbon Falls, south of Norris. That also includes a large parking area above the falls and a walking path separated from the road by a stone wall. The completed phases 1 and 2 of the project include better parking and viewing areas, wider roads, and widened shoulders. We will be in the park for today's announcement, and we're going to give you a timeline for the construction tonight at 5:30 and 10 o'clock. And with spring wrapping up and lots of wildlife having just given birth, Fish, Wildlife and Parks is reminding people to leave baby animals alone. A common tactic used by some species to protect newborns is to hide the babies in bushes. It's important to remember that these animals are not abandoned. Their mother is likely nearby, and the animal is likely safer than it would be if it was out in the open. If you handle the animal, there is a good chance you will reduce its chance of survival. That's because if you intervene, the animal could become abandoned by its mother or habituated to people. FWP does not hold or rehabilitate species like deer, elk, or moose. If baby animal cannot be returned to where it was found, it may have to be euthanized. Always a good reminder going into these summer months.
Seems like common sense to me.
Yeah, you would think, and then you see all the headlines and articles.
I hide my children in my tall grass in my yard.
Yeah, by a bush. The elbow kids in the bush. I've seen that before, actually. It's a good tactic.
They do that themselves.
Now, before we head into a break, time to take a look at this. They could have maybe hit a bush for this next story, but thankfully, they were found in time, and that didn't have to be an option. I am going to be taking you over with the U.S. Coast Guard on the scene of a daring mission. A teenage hiker and her family were injured on a trail in a national forest in Oregon. And, well, they weren't alone. They also had their dog with them. How terrifying would that be? You get so lost in the woods, you don't know what's up, what's down. But thankfully, the brave men and women in the Coast Guard.
That puppy's ready.
Oh, he's ready to
that's so sad.
Get into the sky. I mean, pretty incredible stuff. Just happy to be found. It's incredible what
really
these people do day in and day
and that
out.
was the Coast Guard, but hats off to our search and rescue who continue here in southwest Montana to volunteer their time, get out, and they save people quite often.
Absolutely. Yep. Going into these summer months, always a good idea just to be a little aware aware of your surroundings. Now, we're going to take a short break here on Montana This Morning, but when we come back, The U.S. Navy is tracking several Russian military vessels, including a nuclear-powered submarine that is pulled into the port in Havana, Cuba. The island nation sits a mere 90 miles away from American shores, and we're going to have more details on what the Russians and Cubans are saying about why the warships are there.